Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I wanted to quickly address something that I saw in the media recently with Bill Cosby. And from what I understand, Bill Cosby has basically broken his silence. He's now talking about, um, media, particularly black media, and he was asking that black media remain neutral in the middle of all these sexual assault allegations that are against him. I think that he is responding. He's starting to speak up. I think because I don't know if he's feeling the pressure so per se from everything that's going on, but I think he's realizing that this scandal has gotten to be bigger um, than he thought it would be. It's too big for him to ignore. And I will say first and foremost that if you ask me in my heart of hearts, I do believe that there is some substance to these allegations. I don't think that he's just being just set up entirely. Meaning set up, he might still be getting set up in the sense that they might be revealing things that are private, but just because somebody's setting you up, that does not mean that they are making things up. So, I think that what might be going on is it looks like maybe some chickens are coming home to roost for Mr. Cosby. Even without the rape allegations, his image was certainly fractured and shattered by the revelation that that he was spending so much time with so many women that he wasn't married to, and that many of these women were less than half his age. It does present an image of him or a picture of Mr. Cosby that is less than favorable. I would say that this is far worse than the Tiger Woods scandal. One thing that Tiger and Cosby did have in common is that both of these men had built these squeaky clean brands. Family values, whatever. They were kind of like walking corporations, and I think that the danger of building a squeaky clean brand is that it increases the incentive of people to find dirt on you. And I think that with Cosby, if there were people trying to set him up, I saw people. I've probably had maybe 10 people forward me this article or interview with a woman who says that she was paid money to go and seduce Mr. Cosby and all this other stuff, and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't mean that media is lying about him. That might mean that they knew that Cosby was a person that could be easily seduced, and I think that is something that I guess he and Camille have to figure out. Camille's his wife. But and I'll say I'm a little bit surprised. Am I disappointed? Well, I can't help but to be, especially if this rape thing is true. I mean, that's if he did even one of these things that they're saying he did, that's pretty terrible. Now, what's interesting to me as well is that Cosby is addressing black media now, and I thought that was so interesting because Cosby really doesn't talk about black media. I mean, he built his whole career on white media. White people have taken care of him. They've hooked him up for many, many years. They insulated him from criticism from the black community when he went on those tirades back in 2004. Now, on one hand, I think that does say, look, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You live by the massa, you'll die by the massa. When the massa's done with you, you're done. But at the same time, I can say personally that I was not as offended by Cosby's tirades as some people were. I think that really to be that critical of the black community, you have to have a little bit of a license. You have to show enough love for the community to then gain the right to attack and to criticize. For example, Chris Rock criticizes black people all the time, but Chris Rock has also defended black people. He's also criticized white people. You have some people, but that contrasts him with someone like, say, a Charles Barkley, who will criticize black people, pretty hard, but won't be equally diligent in confronting white people about what they do that causes systemic racism. So I think anybody who believes that black people are perfect is pretty much delusional. Maybe you're so caught up in fighting the battle against racism that you want to exonerate the black community of any accountability for what happens to it. I don't agree with that. When I sat right next to Louis Farrakhan in our New Paradigm Forum last year, I heard him say some things about black people that if Juan Williams on Fox News or if somebody else has said this, people would be outraged. But because it was Farrakhan and they know that he's really gone to bat for the black community, people accepted that criticism. And so I'm not going to say Bill Cosby is Farrakhan. He's nowhere close to that. But if you look at Bill Cosby's track record with the black community, he has done a lot for the black community. He's given more money to HBCUs than any of these weak celebrities that are out here who don't want to give anything. Dr. Dre wanted to give $35 million to USC. I don't know what that's all about. Bill Cosby gave Spelman $20 million, which single-handedly increased their endowment by 50%. I don't know of any white man at any major white university who has given enough money to any of the major white universities to single-handedly increase their endowments by 50%. I mean, that's pretty huge. So I think that that's why Spelman made what appears to be quite a logical decision to say we're not going to detach ourselves from the Cosby family. Now, we can detach ourselves from Cosby's mistakes, but we're not detaching ourselves from that family because the link is the roots run too deep. Now, but and if you notice, you contrast that to the way UMass Amherst responded to Cosby, or the way Temple responded to Cosby. Well, they don't really need Cosby. You know, if Cosby gave them two, three, $4, $5 million, whatever, over the years, they've got billion-dollar endowments, or probably somewhere close to $1 billion, and so they don't really need Cosby's help as much as a Spelman does. So that, I think, the money plays a huge role in terms of deciding who has the right to be righteous and self-righteous about what Cosby did or did not do. But anyway, back to Cosby and the black media thing. I think that's so interesting because, I'm thinking, wow, that's, when you see a black celebrity that's in serious trouble, in many cases, they try to go back and reconnect to their black base. You saw even Michael Jackson, when he had his issues, he started doing things that reconnected to black people. He started appearing with Jesse and Al and stuff like that. Even O.J. Simpson, when white people abandoned him, he was turning to the black community. I have to give Tiger Woods credit. Tiger Woods never tried to lean on the black community because he's never really felt, I think, that he was a deep part of the black community. I think he accepts us to a point, but not very, very much. Cosby, I think he's always seen himself as a black man. I think that the reason that Cosby promoted HBCUs with A Different World and with the Cosby Show was because he saw himself as a black man. I think the reason that he took the time to yell at black people and to say the things that he said no for is because he sees himself as part of the African American family. And again, that is one of the reasons why I didn't reject Cosby entirely when he made his tirade. I wasn't trying to destroy Cosby. I mean, I have friends in Philly who have been mad at Cosby for over a decade, who see this as an opportunity to destroy him, and I've never been in that group. Now, if he did actually rape women, I think it's unfortunate that he won't be punished for what he did. I think he's going to grow old and die, and I don't think it's ever going to really go to court. Um, but I do personally, similar to Spelman, I detach Cosby's horrible actions, the things that might have happened behind closed doors, which I don't feel comfortable about any of this. I detach all of that from the fact that I still am so grateful that this black man, as flawed as he is, took the time to promote HBCUs on his platform. He could have done a million things with that, but he promoted HBCUs as better than these reality shows that are promoting black on black violence, black dysfunction, black sexual promiscuity, leading to STD infections. They're promoting violence amongst black people, particularly black women. I'm not ever going to put what they're doing on a mass scale and compare that to what Cosby did on a mass scale. It's not a comparison, okay? And so anyway, one other thing about black media that's interesting with Cosby is, it's somebody asked me this. They said, well, Cosby's talking about black media, but what is black media? That's a good question. I mean, there really isn't much black media. I mean, if you define black media as, people that just provide news and information to black people that might relate to black issues, then there might be quite a bit of black media, particularly on the internet, the Root, the Griot, Black Voices, stuff like that. You don't really have very much black media in television. Radio has been really diminished, particularly since the Million Man March, where Bill Clinton signed laws allowing Clear Channel to buy up all the stations, which then allowed them to promote the same dumbed down musical content every day, as opposed to intelligent and thoughtful, localized urban information that empowered people. They now want you to listen to Lil Wayne 24 hours a day until you're brainwashed. That was not an accident. That was really deliberately done. They did not want another Million Man March. They want black people ignorant and dissipated, and to some extent, for some people, it has actually succeeded. We literally have a lot of zombies in our community. But fortunately, we have some smart people who are empowered enough to kind of understand what's going on, who are fighting against that trend. Now, again, keep continue to go down with black media. Even if you look online and you really talk about the black media online, most of this black media is not owned by black people. The Griot is owned by NBC. The Root is owned by the Washington Post. The Black Voices is owned by Huffington Post. And so, in essence, magazine is owned by what, Time Warner, I think. Other than maybe say Ebony Jet, of course, Your Black World, we're black owned. And there are a few others out there. I think we have to really be thoughtful about what black media really is, right? Because at the end of the day, the owner makes the decision, and most of the time. So if you are Essence Magazine and you want to run a story that is empowering to the black community, that story may or may not be allowed, depending on a couple of things. One, does it contradict too heavily with the profit motive of the organization? Essence Magazine, their owners, their overseers are not there to necessarily just empower black people. If they can do that while they make money, that's fine. But they're there to make money. They're there to make a profit. And to some extent, some people may say that some of these outlets are there to sell black people as opposed to serve black people. Um, that's the first criteria. Does it interact, or how does it interact with the profit motive? Does it undermine it too much? The second criteria that really comes to mind is, how much does that conflict with white supremacy, right? You can be empowering to black people in a way that doesn't offend whites. Like you can say black people should read more books. Nobody's gonna be offended by that. A white man ain't never really stopped me from reading a book. But if you say, uh, you know, uh, uh, if you say that police brutality is a serious problem and that white supremacy supports police brutality, or if you say workplace discrimination is a problem because many white corporations don't want to hire African Americans, many white-owned banks don't want to loan money to black businesses, many African Americans endure discrimination in the workplace, and these white-owned companies don't address that discrimination. That's when you run into situations that end up conflicting with white supremacy a little bit too much, to the point where it's going to make white people uncomfortable. And that's the hard part about, I think, fighting for black liberation, whatever that is. It might mean different things to different people. Is that it's very difficult to empower yourself without offending whites, because in many cases they interpret love for black people to mean that you must hate white people. Why do they think that loving black people means you have to hate white people? I think is because there is a certain degree of legitimate white guilt, where they look and they say, my God, you're now figuring out how badly we've treated you, so it's only logical that you're going to get mad at me, that you're going to get mad at people like me. And so ultimately, this is one of the reasons why I'm in agreement with those who believe that we need more black-owned everything. We need more black-owned media. We certainly need more black-owned educational institutions. And not just any black people. I'm talking about conscientious black people who care more about the community than they care about themselves. Because the easiest way to exploit black people sometimes is to put a black face on the exploitation. You see that happen all the time in music and in other industries as well. But I'm a big advocate of black-owned everything. So with the Cosby statement, I was thinking about that, and I was like, what does that really mean for him to talk up to the black media? He doesn't really talk to them very much. What does it really mean to be a black media outlet, and just what does all this say in terms of what Cosby's expectations are for black media? He's asking them to be neutral. Well, I think it's very difficult to be neutral in a situation where there are so many allegations. I think neutral at this point does mean that you might have to acknowledge that there's a good probability that Cosby did many of these things, and even though it's not guilt beyond a reasonable doubt per se. That's the standard in the court of law, but that's not the standard in the court of life. And so I would just say that it appears that Cosby made some mistakes, and if he did, he's going to have to answer for that. I mean, he might have hurt a lot of people, but at the same time, I don't think it's as clear cut as people think. I think some of these situations were so ambiguous that it's very difficult to walk away with a clear conclusion. And had there not been so many allegations against him, I think it would have been easy for him to write a lot of that off. But at this point, it's almost as if the last 60 years have piled up on him, and he's now basically dealing with some messes that he created over the years. So that's another pointer for black men, is to say to them that as you get older, your life becomes a reflection of who you are and the choices you make. And so, as you get into situations, a lot of men get in trouble because of what they do with their penises. I encourage men to be as responsible as you can be with what you do with your body. Be accountable for how you may help or hurt other people, and just don't ever get to the point where you believe so much in the man code that you believe that you can do things that are harmful without consequence, because you never know. 30, 40 years down the line, all those chickens may come home to roost, and you may end up losing some things that are valuable to you because of choices you made that you could have made in a different direction. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.